Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
how's it going, all you Minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my advanced overview of the Thunderbolts Uncaged Omnibus from Marvel Comics. I'm going to be talking about what exactly is collected in here, and of course, where it fits into the reading order of Thunderbolts, in case you've been getting these in Omnibus editions. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before getting started, I do want to thank David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advance copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on December 5th or 6th, depending on where you get your books. And what we're looking at here is the one that's supplied by Mark Bagley. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover, and that one is supplied by Greg Land. Now, the standard edition cover is going to be available everywhere, while the direct market cover is only available at your local comic book store or places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, dyingbreedcollectors.com, waltzcomicshop.com, comicsbugle.com, readcomics.com, organicpricebooks.com, Tales of Wonder, InStock Trades, bdcosmos.com, and places like that. But everything underneath the dust jacket is identical. So let's take a closer look at this direct market cover by Mark Bagley. What the hell is going on here? You have the original Thunderbolts against... who are these guys? Well, one way to find out, right? Now, let's take a look at the spine. Now, you do have the title right here, Thunderbolts Uncaged. Here's what the spine looks like, Thunderbolts Uncaged. You have this picture right there of Luke Cage, hence the title. Marvel Omnibus, Parker, Edwards, Chauvet, and Walker. And then the back of the book, Luke Cage takes charge. And that he does with a whole new group of Thunderbolts. Before I take the dust jacket off, I do want to talk about when this book takes place, where you put it in the reading order of Thunderbolts. So this is where I'm putting it. It does go after Volume 3, however, it's not technically Volume 4. Volume 4 would be that Dark Reign era with Warren Ellis and Andy Diggle and Christos Gage writing those stories. And then, of course, we've got the solicited Thunderbolts Red that comes after this era. So this is more like a Volume 5 more than anything. So think something like this in omnibus format is what comes before this particular omnibus. Now, I've done a reading order of Thunderbolts before. If you want to go and check that out on the channel, kind of give you an idea of what goes in between Volume 3 and this volume. Okay, now we can take a closer look at this. Let's take off the dust jacket. We have the Thunderbolts logo there. A shocking era. Total pun intended, I'm sure. Talking a little bit about this particular era. And then the creators here on the right-hand side. Jeff Parker, Neil Edwards, Declan Shalvey, and Kev Walker. And then some of the Thunderbolts, because there are a ton of Thunderbolts that join during this particular time. And yes, this is the design underneath the dust jacket, so it's just the Thunderbolts here. Now, before I open this up, I am going to go over some minor spoilers, talking about some of the characters here, and a little brief history as to how they ended up in this particular book. And I do like to warn people ahead of time before I open the book up. So just in case, minor spoilers, nothing too big or how things work out here. But there are some particular eras in this book that I think I need to talk about and bring up, what was going on in the Marvel Universe as a whole. Alright, let's go ahead and crack this book open. Here we have the end sheets, Thunderbolts Uncaged. So now it's down to us, and here's a small preview as to who some of the new Thunderbolts will be. But as some of you are familiar with the Thunderbolts, it's an ever-changing cast. It's that rotating door of villains trying to redeem themselves, with a couple of heroes here and there. Here are all the credits and the books that are collected in here. There really isn't a table of contents because really there's no page numbers. So what is collected in here? Collected in here are Thunderbolts 144 to 174 and 163.1, Dark Avengers 175 to 190, and Avengers Academy 3 and 4, as well as material from Enter the Heroic Age #1. Now, when I made the announcement of this book, by the way, it has 1,192 pages. When I made the announcement of this book, I did not mention that Avengers Academy issues 3 and 4 were going to be collected in here. As a matter of fact, they just threw it in there. So that's really cool. $125, and like I said, 1,192 pages. So what is this era? Well, this is known as the heroic era of Marvel Comics. It's when the Marvel Universe was being shaken up. We had new creative teams on some books, and then we had just new teams, like physical character teams on a shakeup. Like whether it was the pages of Avengers or the pages of X Factor or X-Men, there was a shakeup going on. So Thunderbolts went through a shakeup, and it was after the events of Secret Invasion. We had Norman Osborn kind of take over the reign of that Nick Fury role that was much missing from the Marvel comics. So he led this team called Hammer, not Shield, and then eventually took over the Thunderbolts, and then eventually took over the Avengers, and then having his own team of Dark Avengers, and all of that ended in Siege. So this is the aftermath of Siege, and we're entering the heroic age of Marvel Comics. So just a little bit of behind the scenes as to what's happening here. So we start off in the raft with some newcomers showing up, and then one of the guards was like, hey, if you guys want to get out of here, all you gotta do is go to these Thunderbolt meetings. And it turns out that the guard was Luke Cage when they take a shot at him. Luke Cage is beating the crap out of everybody. And this is from the Heroic Age one-shot, just the material. And he's telling everybody, look, I'm taking it easy on you. I want you all to redeem yourself or have a chance to redeem yourself and do some good in this world. And it turns out that him and Captain America have been working on this idea of a Thunderbolts team now led by him. So in the first issue is where we really get a breakdown of who's going to be on his team. So we have some classic Thunderbolt characters like the Fixer or Ghost, who had come from the Warren Ellis era. We also have Songbird and Meteorite joining the team. Or Moonstone, rather. And then we end up with the Juggernaut, and Crossbones ends up joining the team. So we have some newcomers, but the most interesting one is this guy right here, ManThing. And they're using ManThing as a teleport device. They're using him kind of like the Avengers Quinjet, is what Luke Cage jokes about. And nobody really knows much about ManThing, even to this day. This team really doesn't know about the character. There's Mach 5 in the background. But they're going to use him as a teleporting device. So this is a brand new team showing up. The very first mission is Baron Zemo kind of lands on the raft, which is where they keep the prisoners in the Marvel Universe, is off the coast of New York. And he's like, hey, I'm here to free you. You guys need a true leader, so join Baron Zemo. And that's the ending of the first issue. So the first few issues is kind of setting up the team and seeing how well they work with each other. Professor Xavier kind of made a deal with Luke Cage and John Walker, who's now warden of the raft. And John Walker is, of course, a U.S. agent. But because of the things that have happened in previous issues, I'm not going to say where, he is in a wheelchair is what's going on with that character during this time. So that gets all fixed. And then we get some Asgardian stories where we introduce a new character named Troll, who might be part troll, part Asgardian, and you can find out for yourself exactly what they are. And you see the team working together. And of course, betrayal left and right. This is John Walker kicking ass even though he only has one leg and missing an arm. And here are your issues of the Avengers Academy. Now, why is this in here to begin with? Well, the Avengers Academy pay a visit to the raft to learn about the Thunderbolts program. So these issues are actually written by Christos Gage, and it shows, man, it just a small tease of what could be. I would love Avengers Academy collected in omnibus format one day. But this focuses on the character of Hazmat, how she ended up getting her powers. Now, if you read Kelly Thompson's run of Captain Marvel, this is where the character showed up. The next issue is about Metal, but you also see a taste of what other Thunderbolts are, like Reptile or Vel, those characters. And of course, some cameos by the New Warriors. But the Thunderbolts do show up through here, and that's why they are included in these, or in this particular omnibus. We see them fighting some ninjas in some of these issues that and this is where some of the betrayal happens. So you'll see the team get a shakeup from time to time. You'll see the team look for new members. And it's not like they're running out of villains in the Marvel Universe. There are always new members. And they try out new members. Like Hyperion is one of the characters that they try out. Like, this guy's super strong, but is he a team player? And Kev Walker, my goodness. Like, the main two artists on this run are Declan Shalvey and Kev Walker. And Shalvey is an amazing artist. Big fan of his Moon Knight run. Later on, he went on to do Wolverine. But Kev Walker has been on my radar for a long time. This is when Satana joins the team because they need a magic user to control more of ManThing. Hey, ManThing Mondays are back, baby. I should have started it like that. Dang it. Anyway, back to this. What the hell was I saying? Kev Walker. Yes. So Kev Walker was an artist that I found early on in his career. Like, you always find these artists that you're drawn to. And I'm like, man, that guy's going to be huge. Little did I know he was already huge across the pond. He came over from the world of 2000 AD or Rebellion. Like, he did a lot of Judge Dredd. So he was already big over there and had a huge fan base. By the time he came over to Americas, when I was like, oh, look at this guy. I bet nobody's talking about Kev Walker. But people were already talking about Kev Walker. And I'm glad, because he is a phenomenal artist. Not that the Clan Shalvey is not. So one of the characters that ended up joining the team is also Mr. Hyde. And he's a character that it's not quite in control of his power, much like the rest of these characters here. Even Satana, who's manipulating the team, like flirting with everybody. Now, something huge happens to the Thunderbolts that leads into a long, huge saga, and it is a time travel saga, and it involves ManThing, and it involves a whole new cast of Thunderbolts along with some classic members going and traveling through time. And it's a long story arc. I think it went on for like 2 years is how long the time travel stories went on. Because it led into the Dark Avengers, which I'll talk a little bit about here in a second. But now you have the team going through different times, not just in the Marvel Universe, but also historical periods too. And then, of course, what does all this mean? What's going to happen to these time-traveling characters? Well, without going big into spoilers, not all of them make it back, and for different reasons. And I will just leave it at that. So you have newer characters hanging out with older characters and some original Thunderbolt members. So you end up with Satana and characters like Mr. Hyde and Boomerang and Troll and Centurias and Ghost and the Fixer all going back in time. And they have to, it's almost like Quantum Leap, they have to fix a couple of things. And like I mentioned, there are some losses in this particular story. They go all over the Marvel Universe and, like I said, historical points too. Now, what ends up happening, a little behind the scenes, is that the Marvel Comics decided they wanted to cancel the run of Thunderbolts. So instead of canceling Thunderbolts, what they do is rename Thunderbolts for kind of like censoring that final page of Thunderbolts 174 to talk about this. But what they do is rename the book to the Dark Avengers and introduce a new cast to this book. It's still the same creative team. It's still Kev Walker drawing it with Declan Shalvey, and then Jeff Parker writing the stories. And it's a continuation of the stories. There are still Thunderbolts that are lost in time. But because they wanted to give it another chance, and this is a really interesting thing behind the scenes, is they changed the name to Dark Avengers. So Dark Avengers was a title that was popular because of Norman Osborn, and like I said, making his own team. Now, people got really confused with the numbering because they thought, wait a minute, there was only like 18 issues of Dark Avengers. How is it that we're jumping into issue 175? Well, they took the number of Thunderbolts and just changed the title Thunderbolts to Dark Avengers. So that's why you're not missing anything from this book, I promise. You go from 174 to Dark Avengers 175. And here you're introduced to Trickshot. These are characters that have appeared in the Marvel Comics before. Ragnarok and Toxie Doxie, who's going as Dark Scarlet Witch and Dark Spider-Man, but they're also joined by Scar, who helped put these people in prison. Now, these are the new group of Thunderbolts on Earth that Luke Cage is leading, because the original Thunderbolts are still lost in time. So, I guess they're calling themselves the Dark Avengers during this era, because we still have some Thunderbolts that are lost through time. And the story continues. It goes all the way to issue 190, whether some of these characters make it back or not. And it lasted a lot longer than what Jeff Parker thought it was going to last. He really thought they were going to get like 1 or 2 issues in, but the changing of the title to Dark Avengers was genius, because they kept the title alive for more than 14, it was like 15 issues, more than a year, more than he thought. He thought 4 issues and that's it. So he ends up wrapping up his stories, but also introducing new elements to the stories that all lead to 190. And then, of course, that's it. And all of that leads into the Thunderbolts Red. So Thunderbolts Red comes out. That's Daniel Way and Phil Noto handling that for a while. And then, of course, Charles Soule. Let's look at the back matter here. So we have some variant covers. Larry Stroman, Frank Martin right there. That's the second printing. There's your variants. A take on a classic by Jim Lee, 268 of Uncanny. Some black and white artwork. Combined covers. A little behind the scenes of Near Mint Condition. This was the original cover they were going to use for the direct market before going with Bagley's direct market cover. Then they decided to change their mind. Some concept artwork here. Character designs, redesigning and tweaking up some of these costumes by Kev Walker. And original pencils here. So, to me, Jeff Parker is a very underrated writer. I don't hear enough talk about him. I hope this brings a lot of attention to his name so we can get things like Agents of Atlas collected in omnibus format, or his very underrated Red Hulk series. If you've not read the Red Hulk past the Jeff Loeb era, you're really missing out. It is excellent. And I never hear hardly anyone talk about Red Hulk by Jeff Parker. That's another series that I would love to see collected in an omnibus format. You have interviews back here and introducing the actual characters from the Thunderbolts, whether they're villains or whether they're actual characters that joined the team. The 15th anniversary roundtable. No, this is not a print mistake. This is an actual continuation from this page right here. Just using Uncanny Omar talked pretty one day. Using the same picture of Songbird. And yet again. And then the Dark Avengers afterward, this is where Jeff Parker talks about how grateful he was that something as silly as changing the name from Thunderbolts to Dark Avengers helped save the book and help him wrap up a lot of stories. Let's check out the binding. 1,192 pages. This one is printed at the Mega Printer, and look at that big, beautiful eye. Yeah. Some of my newer viewers probably are wondering why the hell I get excited over eyes like that. Well, let me show you why. Instead of going back to the beginning, I wanted to go back towards the end to show the combining covers here and look at the no gutter loss going on. That's why I get excited over big eyes like that. You get minimal to no gutter loss on books like this. Now, as far as the paper stock, there is some bleed through. I mean, to me, this feels just a little bit thicker than the iMac printer's newer paper stock they've been using, which reminds me, honestly, of the Donley printer. So this is probably as thick as the Donley printers. So there is minimal bleed through happening, more so in white pages than like dark pages, of course. But if that stuff bothers you, that's something to keep in mind. And I forgot to mention that the covers are all done in this frame. The same type of design that they're using for the art on board, and that spine is used for framing the covers. Textless covers, but they do tell you what issue you're on. That's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this book. Let me know in the comments down below if you plan on picking it up, if you remember this era of Thunderbolts, what other era of Thunderbolts would you like to see collected in omnibus format. Hopefully one day we'll get that Dark Reign era collected with all those Warren Ellis, Andy Diggle, and Christos Gage stories. But yes, if you have any questions, also leave those down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.